right, everybody say hi, volleyball girls.
Hi, volleyball girls.
And say hi to yourselves because you're still in here. Okay? All right, so 09 starts out with really easy stuff, and then we get to the calculator part, which is kind of just a hair toucher, or hair harder, touch harder. But I show you how to do it on your calculator rather than doing the longhand version, so you are going to love it. So I think we filled these in, correct me if I'm wrong, on Friday, whatever day I was here, Wednesday. Okay, so data that include only one variable is E. Characteristic that can assume different values is B. Values used in statistics, A. The entire group of interest to a statistician is D. Population, and then sample is a smaller one. Okay, give me an example of a population.
The population of Blue Hill is like 900.
Great. The population of Blue Hill, so I don't care what the number is, but the population of Blue Hill, okay? What is a sample within that population?
All the people in the school.
Okay, so if we use... Goodbye, volleyball and softball and spirit squad that are riding the bus. So population would be Blue Hill. Sample within that population would be like all of the people in the school, right? Now, give me a scenario where Blue Hill is the sample instead of the population. What would be a population? Population of Nebraska, where Blue Hill is the sample. Does that make sense? So, just because you have one group doesn't necessarily mean it's confined to a sample or a population, blah, 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 right? Okay? It's just whatever the larger group is, all right? So, measures of center, going down to example 1, we want mean, median, mode, and I'm also going to add into here range. Have you guys done this yet already? No? Yes? Okay. You've done it before, but I didn't make you do example 1, right?
9.
I think the other class, the 5th period class, I made them do example 1 for homework. Whatever. So mean. Mean means average, okay? To find the average, you add all of these numbers together and you divide by the number of numbers, right? We all need to know how to find the average, I think, right?
Yeah.
Mean, okay? I think if you add them all together, you get 292. Does somebody want to verify that? 292? If you add them all together? Sure. Cray's going to do that real quick. How many numbers are there? Somebody else check.
There's no 1.
10. 10. If I take 292 and divide by 10, what do I get? Oh, come on. Move the decimal. 29.2. 29.2 is the average. Yes? 29.2 is the average.
What? 281. That doesn't even make sense. My calculator's stupid.
Or the person using it has
No,
It's 295.
295? Okay, so let's switch back to 295. Okay, that's just going to change and make that 29.5. Okay? All right, so 295, whatever. So median. What's the median? Median is the middle, but in order to find the middle, we have to arrange them in order from least to greatest. Here is how I do that to make sure that I do not skip any numbers. I, for one, cross them off, but I also write the new numbers in order directly below the other ones. That makes sure that I did not forget any. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm writing them directly below. My first number is 10. I write that directly below 50 and I cross off the 10. The next number is 15. Then 20 goes directly below 25. Then 25. Then 30. Then 35. Then 35. Then 35. Then 40. And then 50. Because I wrote them directly below, I know that I got each one of them, okay? Now, how many numbers are there?
10.
Okay, how many of you, to find the median, go 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and cross them off, right? You guys do that?
Yeah.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. We're big kids now. We know that if you take 10 numbers and divide by 2, you get 5, right? But does 10 have if you have 10 numbers, does it have an exact middle number?
No.
You have 2 numbers that you have to average together. So that would be the 5th number and the 6th number.
32 and a half.
Okay? So just wait. So let's say I have 50 numbers. 50 numbers does not have an exact middle number because it's an even number of numbers, right? So 50 divided by 2 is 25. So it would be between the 25th and 26th number, right? I have 100 numbers between the
50 and 51.
50 and 51st number, and I would average those together, right? So now you just have to count from one side rather than crossing off from both sides. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we count over the 5th and 6th number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These two numbers average together 30 and 35. So I add them together, 30 plus 35 divided by 2, and that is 32 and a half, right? Okay, now, if you have an odd number of numbers, right, like 13, then you will like have an exact middle number. Does that make sense? Only when you have an even data set does it have not an exact middle number. Okay, so mode. Mode is 35. You guys have already figured that out. Now, I'm going to talk to you just for a second about mode. The mode is indeed 35. What happens if you only have one of each number? Then what do you put?
Nothing.
No mode. You put no mode. Here's what you do not put. You do not put 0 in that spot. Why not?
That's no number.
0 is a number that could be repeating in my set, right? So you put either none or no mode, right? Does that make sense? You don't put 0.
There's like one of every number, and then there's like 3 of like one number and like 3 of another.
Okay, so what happens if there's 3 of one number and 3 of another number? Like 3 4s and 3 7s. What do you do then? You put them both. Yes, you put them both. Now, what happens if I have 3 4s and 5 7s? You put the one with the most, right? So if they have an equal number of numbers and they appear more than once, then you put both of them. But if they're repeating more than once, you take the one that's repeating the most. Yes? Okay, good questions. All good questions for mode. It seems like it would be easy, but there's some tricky things to it, right? Don't put 0. Put no mode if there's no mode, okay? And then the last one is range, which they may or may not ask you. Range is very easy to find. The way that we've listed ours out right now is the biggest minus the smallest. So 50 minus 10, which is 40. 40 is the range. 40 is the range. Okay, good? Yes? Okay, now, that is stuff that you have all done before. Now I'm getting to the part where you have not done these before, okay? This stuff that you've not done before is all called like standard deviation stuff, okay? Now there's a big long formula to standard deviation, which is really disgusting. And even if I teach it to you tomorrow, you're going to come back and you're not going to know how to do it. And that's fine. I don't expect you to know how to do it. So I teach you how to type these numbers in and find the standard deviation. The thing that I want you to be able to do is find the standard deviation on your calculator and know what that means if something has a certain standard deviation versus something else, okay? Those two things to me is more important than you knowing what this formula is. Does that make sense? I want you to know what the number means, okay? So I'm going to give you an example here for just a second, and I'm going to say that you guys are the 8th period class. I'm going to talk about the 5th period class versus the 8th period class. So kind of put this off in this area over here. We're going to talk about the average. Let's say you guys already have your first test in the grade book, right? And your first test in the grade book is an 85 on average for all of you and an 85 on average for the 8th period. So 5th period and 8th period both have an average of an 85, okay? If I just go off of that information, it looks like both of your classes are even, right? It looks like both of your classes are even. But now I'm going to incorporate in there another statistic, which is called the standard deviation, okay? And let's say the standard deviation for the 5th period class is a 10. And the standard deviation for the 8th period, for the 8th period class is a 5, okay? Now, what this means is that yours is better, of course it is. I'm going to draw a little bell curve. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I'm going to show you kind of what this means. Here's an 85 that's in the center. Here's another bell curve. 85 is in the center, okay? When we're in statistics class, my 2nd period stats class, we'll be dealing with bell curves a ton. Okay? You guys won't start talking about bell curves until we get to like chapter 12, which is like right before school gets out in May, okay? So this is just what a bell curve looks like, but I'm going to use this to explain standard deviation, all right? When your standard deviation is a 10, that means if I add 10 points to 85, which would be 95, and I subtract 10 points from 85, which would be 75, those two marks are right here, okay? There is a fact in statistics that says approximately 66% of all of your data lives within 1 standard deviation on either side of the mean. So if I add 10, subtract 10, that means 66% of all of the 5th period class would have scores that were between 75 and 95. That's not 100% because some people still have more than a 95, some people really bombed and are less than a 75, right? But 66% live within that range, okay? Now, the same thing goes for the 8th period class, except you guys are living between an 80 and a 90, right? Because your standard deviation is just 5, right? So 66% of all of you, the majority of you, are living between an 80 and a 90. Okay, which one do I as a teacher like better?
Ours.
Of course I like you, right? I like you guys better because you're awesome, right? Okay? I like you guys better because even though I have some people up here that are scoring a 95 in the 5th period class, I like the fact that you guys are in more of a consistent range, okay? The most frustrating thing for me as a teacher is when I have somebody scoring 100% and then I have somebody over here scoring a 30 or a 20, right? Because then it's like, okay, what did I do for this person? And then this person just bombed, right? I like to have consistency. I like to have everybody kind of in the middle about the same, right? Everybody's on the same page. I like it when that happens, okay? So a standard deviation is going to keep all of the numbers really kind of tight together. A big number for standard deviation is going to mean all your data is kind of spread apart. So standard deviation and range kind of go together, right? So if my standard deviation is a big number, what's going to happen to my range? Like range, highest number minus lowest number. What's going to happen to my range if my standard deviation is a big number? Is it higher or lower? It's going to be big. If my standard deviation is big, like 10, my range, 75 to 95, is going to be bigger, right? Okay? If my standard deviation is little, like 5, my range is going to be smaller. Does that make sense? I'll put those kind of together. Like this goes with that, this goes with that, okay? Standard deviation and range. So they both are directly related to each other. Up the standard deviation, up the range. Does that make sense? Okay? So, just as long as you know what standard deviation kind of does, it doesn't help me to say that, hey, you guys had an average of 85 and the other class had an average of 85. That doesn't really tell me very much, right? Because then it looks like you're on the same playing field, right? Whereas you guys are a lot better because you're more consistent than they are. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing down below here, and this is going to involve the calculator part. So please, please, please stick with me on this, and we are going to do the best we can to try to get everybody through the calculator part, okay? Everybody has different types of calculators, so I'm going to go through each of the types that I have, and I want you to write steps for how you do your calculator part, okay? If I am talking about a calculator that is not like yours, just sit tight and be quiet, okay? So, what we're going to do first is we're going to set this up. We're going to start talking about Class A versus Class B. Now, it tells me that the average for both of them is what? You see it in the paragraph? What's the average for both of those classes? 84.2. It's written in the paragraph. 84.2, 84.2. Both of them have an average of 84.2. Okay, now we're going to find the standard deviation using our calculator. It's a big long formula if we write it all out, but I'm going to do it with the calculator. Okay. Now, another little tidbit for you, because your calculator will use this notation. Average will be written as X bar is what that guy's called. X bar. It's an X with a line over top of it. So your calculator will show that symbol, X bar. Okay. Same thing down here, X bar. Standard deviation, you're looking for a little S. Okay, a little S. That's what you're looking for standard deviation, okay? All right, so I'm going to start with the people who have this calculator. If this is you, listen up. People that have this calculator, okay? Get your calculator out so you can go through these steps with me. All right, so if you have one of these calculators, go through these steps with me and try to pay attention as best you can so I can get everybody's done, all right? Do it and then I'll have you write it down, okay? Do it and then I'll have you write it down. Okay, or maybe I'll write the steps down. We'll write them down as we go. How about that? What? There's like a little line right there for my dot camera. Okay. All right. So if you have a TI-30X, which is what this guy is, TI-30XIS or whatever that is. Okay. TI-30X. Here are your steps. Okay. What you want to do first, before we enter our data in, is you have to set this calculator up and say, I'm going to enter data into you, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't know what I'm wanting to do. So turn your calculator on for the first thing. Okay, I'm going to clear mine out because I have stuff on there. On, and what you need to do is you need to get the calculator ready to do some stats, okay? So what I want to do is I want to hit second data, okay? Second data, all right? So I'm going to put step number 1, second data, which actually underneath of it is the stat button, okay? Hitting second data is kind of like stat, all right? And then it's going to highlight underneath, underlined is one variable. So step number 2, I want to enter where it says one variable. Enter. Okay, enter. So I'm going to hit enter because that's what's highlighted. Enter. Then I have set the calculator on. Do you know what happened to my screen? Did you see what happened to your screen? What does it say now? It says stat down in the corner right here, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that data button. So now you just go to data. D-A-T-A, you hit that data button and we start entering stuff in. So it says X1. My first number that I'm going to enter in, if you look at your notes, is 85. So I'm going to hit 85 and I'm going to hit the down arrow. What does FRQ mean? Frequency. So if I had 85 as a number that showed up twice, I could change that to a 2. Okay? But I don't. So I'm going to go down. Do you know where I'm getting these numbers from? Right here, Class A. We're going to type in all the Class A's. So what comes after 85?
What?
Class A. You see right here?
How did you get it to X2?
Hit the down arrow again. Down arrow again. Okay. Go to 76. Down. Frequency 1. Yep. Go down again. X3 is 92. Down, down. 88. Down, down. 80. Down, down. Are we good? Hold up a minute, he says. Oh, boy. Okay. So, your steps. You hit data. I'm going to do 4. I'm just going to say enter data. Okay, enter data. There you go. All the way down. Enter data. Okay? Now, you should be at X6, but I'm not going to type anything in there. Are you ready for the magic to happen? No. Next thing you want to do is just hit this button that says stat var. Do you see that? Enter. Hit stat var. There it is. So, you guys have the least number of steps of all. You hit the stat var button. Stat var button. Okay, N. It shows up right away as N. What does N mean? It says there's 5. That means I entered 5 numbers in. If you go over, X bar, 84.2. Didn't it tell me that? Okay, S is 6.34. And then all this other stuff you don't really care about. Okay, that's for a different day. But those 3 things, it has X bar and it has S. Okay? Whoop. So I hit clear, sorry. Stat var. There we go. So my S, you can go ahead and write it down if you want to. My standard deviation is 6.34. 6.34. Okay, good? Yes? Perfect? Did you get it? Those people that have that type of calculator? Ooh, question. What? Just 1 on each one. 1 for each thing. Okay, so you should be able to go through and do Class B. All right, so graphing calculators. Tori, is that you? Anybody else? Tori and Emma? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, Tori and Emma. So Emma, watching this video here, this one's for you. Okay, so you guys have a TI-84. Emma's, yours might look a little different because you have a really, really fancy one. TI-84, this is the steps that you're going to do. So you're going to first turn it on. Then the second thing you're going to do is stat. Hit the stat button right here. Okay, stat. And it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. Tori, this is going to look really familiar. Stat, and then we go to edit, which is the first thing highlighted on the screen, and you hit enter. Okay? All right, then I have stuff in my lists. Okay? So I have stuff in list 1 and list 2 to clear out my lists. I'm going to go up to list 1 and I hit the clear button, enter. Go over to list 2, hit the clear button, clear, and enter. Okay, now my list 1 and list 2 are cleared out. Okay, so if you don't have anything in your list 1, list 2, then you're good to go. Okay, in list 1, I'm going to type in all of the numbers that I see there. All right, 85, enter, 76, enter, 92, 92, enter, 88, enter, 80, enter. Okay, there are 5 numbers. Yeah? Okay, did you get all that? Okay, now, so that was step number 3. Enter numbers. Enter numbers in list 1. Okay, that's what list 1, list 2, list 3, all of those are. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do, step 4. Okay, you're going to hit that stat button again, but instead of going stat edit, you're going to go stat calc. This is the same steps that we did to go to linear regression, Tori, remember, and trig. Okay, but instead of going to linear regression, you're going to go to one variable stats, which is already highlighted. So you're going to hit the stat button again, and you're going to over to calc. Okay, so I hit the over key here to go from edit over to calc. Edit to calc, okay? And then from there, I want to make sure I'm on, well, let's just do this. I'll do it in the same steps. One variable stats. One variable stats. Okay? So I hit enter, and it's asking me, do you want to use the stuff that's from list 1? Yes, I do. So I'm going to click enter, enter, or you can click the down arrow until it says calculate. And I'm going to click enter again. And it's going to spit out all that stuff, okay? X bar was 84.2. This S of X is 6.34. That N was 5 because I entered 5 numbers in, etc. It's all right there for you. Good? Awesome. So that is a graphing calculator, okay? All right, now I need people who have the type of calculator like Casio 300 ES. Anybody Casio 300 ES? What type is yours? Hey. This is the same type as. Oh boy.
I have a buddy.
You guys are gonna have maybe the same as us. Let's see.
Why won't you surprise you?
Oh my
You're
goodness.
supposed to be the smartest person.
These steps and see if we get the same thing. Okay. So. Some of you guys probably have a calculator that looks similar to this. I think this was the one Tegan and I don't remember who else had it. Tegan had this one and somebody else, whoever left. I don't remember. Anyway, so here is the Casio 300 ES. Here are your steps. Oh, I forgot calculate. Calculate on TI-84. Okay. Now, Casio 300 ES or a Casio. All these Casios are going to look the same. A Casio. Okay. So here are your steps for Casio. Write these steps down as we do them, and make sure you have your notes handy so that we can type these little guys in there, okay? So the first thing that you are going to do is you go to this mode button. Mode button is right up here in the corner. Hit mode. Number 1, mode. Okay, it is the button on the top. Top right. Hit the mode button, okay? And we want our calculator to be in stat mode. Shh. Okay, quiet. We want our calculator in stat mode, so you're going to hit the number 2, okay, or stat, whatever. Maybe it's not number 2 for you because you might have a different Casio. So click on stat, whatever number that is. I think it's the number 2, okay, and we want one variable stat. So number 3 is you hit the button that says one variable. So on my calculator here that I'm using of Isaac's, I hit the number 1, so I'm going to hit one variable, and it's going to bring me up a list like they did for the graphing calculator. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. We're going to type in those numbers. So I'm going to hit 85, enter. Whoop. Number 2 is 76, enter. 92, enter. 88, enter. And 80, enter. Okay? All right, so once I go to one variable, I'm going to type in my list. These are the steps. Type in my list. Okay, are you guys over here? Are you on the same steps as here? Okay.
The hidden magic trick.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Just wait. You can share it with me later. Okay. So I'm going to type my list in. Now, this is the very, very, very most important step because if you do not do this step, your stuff will not be saved in your table. Okay. Step number 5. Hit the AC button. Okay, it's basically like saving it into your calculator. The AC button is this guy right here. That will save that table. You hit the AC button and it will save it and to return you to the main screen. But your stat guy will then be on, right? You see the stat on the main screen? You have to hit that AC button or it will not save, okay? So now, as soon as you are on that AC button, number 6, you're going to hit Shift, and then the number 1 down here says Stat. Some of you guys might say Stat, DIV, or something like that. Yeah, maybe? Okay, you hit Shift, and then Stat, or the number 1 button, okay? And your screen looks like this. So Shift, and then number 1, which is Stat, and it takes you to a screen that looks like this, okay? We want variance data, so number 5, that's step number 7. You hit VAR, whatever number that is. Mine is number 5, so I'm going to type in the number 5, and then it's going to take me here, okay? So if I want N, or if I want X bar, or if I want some of that other stuff, okay, I want the X bar, so I'm going to hit the number 2, and I hit Enter. That means my average, or my X bar, is 84.2. Do you see that? Okay, now if I want to go back, this is kind of what the pain in the butt is, because it will only show you one thing at a time. If I want something else, I have to hit Shift, Stat, and I go back again. Okay, so I have to go to, let's go to data. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Shift, Stat, let's go to number 5 again. Mine's not showing standard deviation. Why is it not? Is you guys showing standard deviation? Like the S button? Yeah, sometimes? There it is. So you guys' button for standard deviation might look like, I'm going to write this down. Standard deviation should be either S, or on this calculator for some reason standard deviation looks like an S, an X, alpha, and -1. That's what he looks like. Okay, so Isaac, on your calculator, you're going to have to go to the number 4 if you want standard deviation. I'll go back to that main screen again. So you hit Shift, Stat, and you go to VAR, number 5, and then you're going to go to number 4 if you want the standard deviation. Okay, so number 4, Enter, 6.34. Yeah? Okay, some of you guys might have S for that button. Yeah? All right, did I cover everybody's graphing or everybody's type of calculator to do standard deviation? Yes, sir. How do you do like what part? 6.34. So did you go Shift, Stat, and you got to here?
No.
Yeah? And then you go to 5 because you want variance data, okay? And then it takes me to this screen. Standard deviation might be in your calculator. It might say S, but this is standard deviation for this calculator. So I'm going to hit just the number 4 because that's the 4 that's corresponding to him. You see that? I hit the number 4, and it just automatically shows up for me, 6.34.
It doesn't show that here.
Okay, so yours is 4.
Okay.
Yours is an S, okay? So, oh shoot, okay? So,
You changed.
76. You don't hit the down arrow, you hit the enter. Yep, 92, enter, 80, enter, 80, enter. So after that, okay, you have to hit the AC button, okay? And then you go Shift, Stat, and you can go to variance, okay? And standard deviation is 4, okay? There you go. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so, did I get everybody's calculators? Did I get through everybody's calculators? Kind of.
That one's broken now.
That's all right. They're pretty high endurance. All right, so that standard deviation was 6.34. Did anybody test to see what the standard deviation was in the second data set?
I did.
If you typed it in, what'd you get?
I got what? 6.
No, you didn't.
12.99.
12.79. How the heck did you get that? You type it in right. 12.79. Now, let's think about it this way. So this one had the higher standard deviation. The higher standard deviation goes with the bigger spread of numbers. Is this guy more spread out than this guy? This guy's going from 68 to 98, and this one guy's going from 76 to 92. Which one's more spread out? the bottom one, so it should have the bigger standard deviation. Does that make sense? More spread means bigger standard deviation. 12.79, yeah? Good? Okay, so now you know how to type those in and get your standard deviation, okay? So let's go to the back side, and guess what?
No.
This whole big deal where we are finding it by hand, we are not going to do that because people don't remember it anyway. So we're not doing that whole big long finding the standard deviation by hand because I don't like it. But use the calculator to find the range variance standard deviation for the scores of class B. Compare the sample standard deviations. That's what I just did. So B is more spread out, so it has the higher standard deviation. B's data is, I'm going to say, wider range. So, standard deviation, DEV, standard deviation equals bigger. Okay? B's data is a wider range, therefore the standard deviation is bigger, which it was. We saw that. Okay? Now, a couple more things. We have something called the 5-number summary. 5-number summary. And these are often used in coordinates with box and whisker plots. You're like, I hate box and whisker plots. Whatever. Box and whisker plots. Okay, so we're going to do the 5-number summary to example 3. Okay? Good? All right, example 3. These guys down here. How many numbers are there, by the way, in that data set, example 3? I think it tells you.
12.
12. Oh my gosh, how cool. 12 weeks, all right? Let's put them in order because we need that. Okay? So 10 is my first number, then 12, then 13, then 14, then 15, then 16, then 18, then another 18, then 19, then 20, then 20, then 21. 20, 20, 21. Okay? There's your data. 5-number summary. 5-number summary. Okay? This is fairly short and sweet and easy, I think. Okay? So here's how your 5-number summary breaks down. So your 5 numbers are your minimum, your maximum, your median. There's 3 of them. Min, max, median. Okay, before we fill in the other 2, what the other 2 are, let's go ahead and let's figure out what these guys are. Minimum, what's my minimum number in that data set? We put them in order. What? What's the minimum number? What? What's the smallest number?
10.
10, there we go. Minimum number, 10. What's the big maximum number?
21.
21, that's my maximum number. Okay, the median. Since I have 12 numbers, will I have an exact middle number? No, right? No. So my number will be between the 12 divided by 2 is 6 and 7th number, 6th and 7th number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th and 7th number. What's exactly between 16 and 18? 17 is my median. Okay? All right, those are 3 of your numbers. Then the next 2 numbers are your Q1 and your Q3, which stand for quartile 1 and quartile 3. Okay, those are quartiles. Or sometimes they're called the upper quartile and the lower quartile. Quartile 1 and quartile 3, okay? Now, quartile 1 is just finding the middle number of this range, the median. The quartile 3 is just finding the median of that range, right? Okay? So, looking at this data right here, here is where my numbers are split. 10 to 16, I'm looking for the middle number. There are 6 numbers there. Is there an exact middle number? 6 numbers. Is there an exact middle number? What is the middle number? It's between 13 and 14. 13.5. Okay? Now, this range right here, these 6. Is there an exact middle number there? 18 to 21, is there an exact middle number there? 18, this 18. This 18 to that 21. There's 6 numbers. The middle of them is 19.5. 19.5, okay? Now, the box and whisker plot, don't do that, Greg. Box and whisker plot's going to look like this. I'm going to start with 10, and I'm going to go to 25, and I'm going to section this off in fives. So I'm going to go 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, so we're going to make our box and whisker plot real quick here. Box and whisker plot. 10, 15, 20, 25. Here we go. Okay, my minimum number is 10, so I'm going to put a dot above the 10. My maximum number is 21, so I'm going to go over to about 21, and I'm going to put a dot. Okay, that's 10 and 21. 10 and 21. Okay, now, the median number is 17. So I'm going to put a line above my 17. Okay? And then I'm going to go to about 13.5, and I'm going to put a line there, and I'm going to go about to 19.5 and put a line there. And that's my box, and these two are my whiskers. You see that? Now, what conclusions can you draw from that box and whisker? What's difficult? Math. What can you draw? What conclusions can you draw from that box and whisker? Chunks.
It makes a box.
It makes a box and it makes a whisker. We're talking about spread of data. Spread of data. How spread apart things are. The way that this is set up, I had 12 numbers to start with, right? There are 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here, and 3 numbers here, right? That's what the quarters are. There's 3 numbers within each little range here. Like there's 3 numbers on that line, 3 numbers in this half of the box, 3 numbers in this half of the box, 3 numbers here, right? Yeah. So somebody said in this 5th period class that there's more numbers here, right? Because that's a longer line. That's not true. There's exactly 3 numbers here, exactly 3 numbers there, right? So what's true about these numbers in comparison to those numbers? These numbers are more spread out, right? More spread out. More spread out. These numbers in there. These guys are closer together. Does that make sense? More spread out and closer together. Yes? So it's not that there's more numbers here, it's that these numbers are more spread out. Basically, if I were looking at this in terms of grades, I probably have everybody pretty consistent, and then maybe Cray is over here pulling everybody down, making this whisker with the long. He's the outlier down here, right? Yeah. That's one conclusion I could draw from this data set, okay? So let's go down and talk about the effect of an outlier. Do you know what an outlier is?
Yeah, heard of it.
Outlier is a number that stands out. What number stands out in that data set? 65 is a huge number in comparison to all the rest of them, okay? So I'm going to draw you just a little bit. I'm not going to do this problem exactly, but I'm going to draw you a little bit about what this would look like, okay? This is probably what my box and whisker plot would look like with that 65 in there, okay? 65. That's probably what my box and whisker plot is going to look like with the 65. Now, if I take the 65 out, without 65, my box and whisker plot might look more like that. He's going to look more uniform, right? Okay, again, that's not drawn exactly because I don't want to take the time to do all of that work again because the bell's going to ring. But with the 65, it's going to change my box and whisker plot because it's going to pull everything that direction. Does that make sense? Okay? Versus taking the 65 out. So, outliers change your data significantly. Okay? All right. Do 2 through 10, the evens. On your homework, there's 5 questions, but it does take a little bit of time. Yes, there's an actual page. Okay? There you go. 2 through 10, the evens. All right.